Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Wristwatch production. My name is Brandon, and this is my review of Legend of Korra, Book 4, Episode 7. Alright, so sorry for the late review, but stuff came up. Anyway, to get right down to it, this episode was really good. I really liked this episode. There was a lot of action going on, and just a lot of stuff moving forward in general. I think I noticed this was a general opinion that I saw, was that this episode was a bit fillery, and I don't know why or how people exactly came to that conclusion, because I never really felt like this episode was just doing stuff to just do stuff, which is kind of what filler is. Filler doesn't really progress anything, but in this case I felt like we had a lot of progress. There's two separate plots. There's the one where Korra reunites with Mako and Asami and everyone else back at Air Temple Island and Republic City and everything like that. Gets with Mako and meets Prince Wu and everything like that. And what happens is a bunch of Earth Empire soldiers capture Prince Wu. And so it's up to Korra, Asami, and Mako to track him down. They eventually do track him down and save him and bring him back to Asami's mansion, where Mako's family that they saved from Ba Sing Se is still living. And I find that kind of funny that they're still living there and they're not living in a place within Republic City, that they're still living in Asami's mansion. But I suppose if it's just Asami living there, and it was always just sort of just Asami and her dad, she must have plenty of room at the mansion. And so that's where they dropped Prince Wu off. So now Prince Wu is safe for now, and now it's up to Asami, Mako, and Korra to figure out what the hell is going on. And the other plot line has Bolin and Varric escaping from Kuvira and her Earth Empire forces. And what happens is they get trapped. They meet up with a group of refugees who escaped from one of Kuvira's camps. And Bolin and Varric are basically trying to explain to them, like, we can't really help you in the way you want us to because we're wanted fugitives. And these guys aren't listening. They're not buying Bolin and Varric's story at all. So anyway, Bolin and Varric help them escape by getting them across the border. And then Bolin goes back to help out the refugees, despite the fact that him and Varric have a clear shot away. They save the refugees, fend off the Earth Empire troops, and bail out on like a rickety boat and sail away from the Earth Empire. So that's where everything is right now. And then at the very end of the episode, we have Kuvira and Batar, along with chainsaw mechs, which I thought was ridiculously amazing, cutting down the big tree that was in the swamp. And I can't remember what the tree is. It starts with a B. I swear it starts with a B, but I can't remember what it's called. But basically they're cutting down the tree because the entire swamp has a huge concentration of spirit energy. And this is something that we have known for a long time. It is something that has been confirmed in Legend of Korra, that the swamp is a very spiritually powerful place. That it has mysterious powers. And basically Kuvira tells her troops to cut down everything until there's nothing left. And so the question is Toph going to get involved in this war? And if she does, what is going to happen to her? I think that's really the question. Is Toph going to be taken prisoner? Is Toph going to bail out because she's like, well, I don't really care? And now that Korra has made it known that she has met Toph, as far as we know, she hasn't talked to Lin. So Lin doesn't know that Korra has met Toph. Suyin does not know that Korra has met Toph, as far as we know. So the question is, what are the implications there? What's going to go on with that is something I really want to know, because Lin clearly she had unfinished business with Suyin, but I feel like Lin has a lot of unfinished business with her mom. Like she might have something going on there with her mom, and I feel like I really want like some closure between Lin and Suyin and Toph, because we got closure between Lin and Suyin, and I feel like they both want that same kind of closure with their mother, and I want to see that moment happen. That's what I want. Here's what else I feel like I'm really looking forward to is, why is Kuvira going after Prince Wu? I think this is an important detail, because I would have figured that after the whole thing happened in Republic City, why would Kuvira bother going after Prince Wu? It doesn't really seem to make sense, because he doesn't really seem to pose a threat. Nobody really seems to want him in power, and Mako already pointed out to him that it's like, why would anybody want you in power? You're a spoiled brat. You've never known hardship. You've never known poverty. You've never had to work for anything. Here's Kuvira. She's putting in the work. Like, she's definitely not doing the right thing. She's straight up Hitler at this point, but at least she's working towards something, and you're not doing anything. And so it's one of those things where it's like, why should people like you? Why should people want you to be in power? Other than that, I thought everything was pretty cool this episode. I thought Asami, like the dynamic between Asami, Mako, and Korra was cool. I love the dynamic between Bolin and Varric. I also love Varric as like a constant character. Like he's just walking in and immediately just redoing machinery with nothing but a screwdriver, and he made like an EMP, that like an electromagnet that just collected the robots and just disabled them. I thought that was awesome. Another thing that I liked is we got to see some pretty cool lava bending from Bolin. I really like that Bolin's a lava bender because I really like lava bending, but it's also one of these things where I still kind of have issues with the fact that Bolin just sort of became a lava bender. I've gotten over it, I really have, but it's still something that kind of bugs me in the back of my head a little bit, and bugged me about book 3. But yeah, I love the dynamic between Varric and Bolin, and I thought it was funny how at some point between going to the border with the refugees and between meeting the refugees, at some point Varric shaved and like redid his mustache and cleaned up. I thought that was kind of funny because I'm like, where would Varric have done this? At what point would they have allowed him to have a blade so he could shave? But I guess, I don't know, maybe he convinced them off screen that he's like, well, if you want us to do this, I'm gonna have to look cleaner. Otherwise they're not gonna believe me. That really didn't bother me at all. I just thought it was kind of funny. But there's one thing in this episode, one small thing that genuinely did bug me during this episode, and it was when Korra was using her spirit powers to find out where Prince Wu was. Now, the first time she used it, when she used it on the cluster of spirit vines and she went over to the spirits, I thought, this is the new Korra. She has finally accessed her spiritual side, and she is using her spiritual abilities. Like, I like this. I am a fan of this. But when she used it when they got to the train, I had an issue with it because she touched the concrete and sensed where Wu was in a train. I had problems with that, mostly because it didn't really make sense to me. Like, I was really convinced that this power, for the most part, unless she could fully spiritually project, this power only worked with the spirit vines. And I know some people want to make the argument like, oh, well, maybe there was spirit vines under the concrete. Sure, okay, I'll buy that. But there aren't spirit vines that are reaching into the train. I just kind of have issues with it. And at the end of the day, Korra has learned to project her spiritual energy into a physical object to be able to sense where someone else is. She's essentially developed the same ability that Jinora has had since book 2. Aside from that, overall, a good episode. I have no problems with anything that was done in this episode. I thought the action sequences in general were fairly cool. I enjoyed the progression. I enjoyed the humor. I enjoyed the character dynamics. I really enjoyed everything. I do like how they covered that moment, how they came back to kind of bite Korra in the ass, that Korra was only writing to Asami because she only felt comfortable writing to Asami, and Mako is really upset with that. Like, why didn't you feel comfortable writing back to me? Like, we've also been friends for however many years now, and you never wrote back to me either. You only wrote back to Asami. So I understand Mako's frustration, and Bolin would probably be pretty pissed off too, and that's totally something that I can fully understand why it would be the case. But I like how they at least addressed it. I thought it was going to be one of those things that maybe they just forgot about and they skipped over, but they didn't. It came back. I appreciate that. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't know where we go from this point, right? Like, I don't know where we go from this point. I'm still a little bit upset why we don't know why Kuvira is doing what she's doing, but unlike most people, I'm willing to sit here and go, look, we still have 6 episodes left. Let's see where it goes. Let's see what they can do within those 6 episodes. I know a lot of people are worried and upset that, like, oh my god, this season is moving too slow. The plot needs to be picked up a lot faster. And people were complaining back in the day about book 2. They're like, oh my god, the plot is moving too fast. They need to slow down. And it's one of those things where it's really hard to find a middle ground. And I felt book 1 and book 3 definitely found those middle grounds. A lot of people don't like book 1 as much as book 3, but I definitely felt like those two found that middle ground. And I don't really agree with people that I think book 4 is moving too slow, because I definitely think it's going to be plot for the rest of the season. And I felt like this episode was very much plot. Like, there was very much stuff going on. There was character progression. There was story progression. I thought this episode was fine. I really enjoyed this episode, and I thought it was a really good episode. Like I said, my only problem with it is Korra using her spiritual powers the way she did the second time. The first time, totally cool with it. The second time, not a big fan of it. But you do what you do, right? Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.